To find out about Dave Roever's other compelling and timely videos that are making an impact across the country, see the special preview following this presentation.
At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Dave Roever is a resident from the Fort Worth area. He is someone that has a story to tell us here at Boswell this afternoon. For those of you who may not be familiar with his story, he was serving his country in Vietnam, and during that time, a grenade exploded, literally, physically tearing him apart. He's here today to speak to you. He's spoken to over 2 million teenagers throughout the United States, and today he's here to visit with us at Boswell to tell his story. Will you please give a Boswell welcome to Mr. Dave Roever. Dave?
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. Hi, y'all. Oh, that's pathetic. Hi, y'all. I am where I want to be today. Isn't that nice? Because sometimes you're forced into situations that you have to contend with and put up with and endure. And I'm glad to tell you today I'm where I want to be. I love you. I enjoyed this school so much last year. I couldn't wait to get back. We do go to a lot of schools, and I see a lot of teenagers. And I've got a lot of new freshmen. We're all the freshmen. Boy, they're strangely quiet in this group. You seniors have intimidated them. But we got a lot of freshmen, and I know you guys are looking me over, and of course I'm looking you over, and you're wondering what happened to me, and I was wondering what. No. I have scars, and you have pimples. We're even. A lady came up to me. I was in Kansas City one time. She put her hand right in my chest and stopped me dead cold in the street, on the sidewalk. She looked up at me. She said, "Good grief, man, what happened to your face?" I've never had such a come on. I looked at her and I thought, ma'am, I said, I was attacked by a man-eating hummingbird. Sometimes I tell them I was burn bobbing for French fries. Did you get it? Never mind. Some of you are looking at me like, I don't understand. I grew up right around this part of the state. In fact, I'm very, very close to my own home. And it's just a great joy to be in one of the great areas of the nation and not only live here, but to be able to be in this school today. And there's a lot of young people that are going to be privileged to sit in on this session together. Just literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of students will participate in this assembly today. And so there's some things I want to say to you. I want to say to many kids. One of those things is I grew up in a very strict, disciplined home. My dad was a minister, but I got to give him credit for being a strict, disciplined man. My dad was not a very tolerant man when it came to disobedience. I had to toe the line. I never did call my dad the old man or my mother the old woman. I like my teeth in my mouth. I called daddy sir and mother ma'am. And now, I got to tell you, my dad and I are best of friends. My mom's passed on, but I got to tell you, I got the best memories in the world. And my dad wasn't the kind of guy that when he said, you be in at 10:30, that you come dragging in at 11:30. I better be walking through the door not 1 second past the sweep hand crossing 12 at 10:30, because I had to give a full account of myself, what I had done, where I had done it, and who I had done it with, and it better meet his approval, or I was in a heap of trouble, boy. And believe it or not, at age 40, I am still very much a friend with my dad. Now, I know 40 sounds old, doesn't it? You're 17. Oh, he's 40. He's over the hill. I'm not over the hill, dude. I am the hill. Don't give the hill any trouble, or you'll be under the hill. But anyway, I went to Lake Worth High School, right down the road down here. Don't throw anything, but I went to Lake Worth High School. And I even met my beloved little sweetheart in that high school. I fell in love. I asked her to marry me. She slapped me. She said, 13 is too young. Didn't bother me at all. I was ready to marry her, you know. And finally, it took a little while to win her heart, but I wooed her. Man, did I ever woo her. I wrote her poems. In my wooing abilities, I wrote this poem. Roses are red, violets are blue, I like peanuts, do you swim? That's a good poem when you live next to the lake. But she was brilliant. The woman was brilliant. She had straight A pluses on her report card. I'd never seen such a thing as A pluses. I thought as hieroglyphical markings. And you don't even know what that is. That's the stuff Indians wrote with. Never mind. And I was in the top 10% of the lower 1/3 of my class. But I surprised the whole community of Lake Worth because I did finally graduate with honors. I knew several of them personally. They were nice kids. But when I did finally graduate, I was very privileged to have an opportunity to pursue my dream. And my dream was to follow in the footsteps of my daddy. So I went to a Bible college, learned how to be a minister. The only thing about Bible college was it's not a state school, therefore it costs quite a bit of money, you understand, to be able to get your bill paid on a regular semester basis. So I had to get me a job. I went right over here to General Dynamics in Fort Worth, and I got me a job. I had one more great job. One of the most sophisticated aircraft ever built was being built in one of the most sophisticated air plants, or whatever you call it, that was ever built. And I ran the most sophisticated car wash you ever saw over there. Had a big old magic wand. But it was a good job. It paid well. I made a lot of money, and then I got promoted a few times. And believe it or not, before I knew it, working overtime, working holidays, working all the times I could, I made more money that year than my college president. Can you imagine what that does to your ambition for an education? It shoots you right down. Because if I was making more money as a student than the man was making as a president of the college, what good's a great education? You see what I mean? That's the way a kid would think. So I just worked all the more and studied all the less. My check went up, my grades went down. They dropped to a C minus from a good, solid C. Now, there happened to be going on at that time a situation across the ocean that had America very much involved and embroiled in a difficult time. They called it the war in Vietnam. I definitely was not involved in all the political fallout of that. I didn't understand it. I was just married, working, and going to college and having fun. The only trouble was when my grades dropped, apparently someone told on me, or they had investigators that looked at the grades of college students, because I got a letter in the mail one day from the draft board. How many of you know what the draft is? You know? Okay, a few. Yeah, well, most of you. You're bright. I go to a lot of schools and they think, oh yeah, man, we drink it at Pizza Hut. Duh. Wrong draft, right? I know what the draft is. I get this letter in the mail from Uncle Sam, and it said, greetings, nephew. See, Uncle? No, that's all right. Thank you, but courtesy laughs are nice, but you don't have to. They told me to go take a physical. Well, I wrote right back and said, dear Uncle, I feel fine. You go take a physical. I'm kidding, of course. I took my physical exam. I was ecstatic. It was the only exam I passed the whole semester. I studied all night for the blood test. And they told me I was going to be inducted in the Army. And I got to thinking about this. Man, they're going to draft me, put me in the Army, send me to Vietnam, shoot me, put me in a doggy bag, send me to America, bury me, end of story. I'm not into guns, and I'm not into war, and I'm not into doggy bags. Hey, man, I didn't know anything about the military. I never even had a G.I. Joe with a kung fu grip, you know. I just simply was not interested in military life. Now I'm staring that thing down the gun barrel, you know, saying, they're going to draft me. Now, I decided that day I was not going to be drafted. I was not a war protester. I was a chicken. Well, see, I was afraid they would hurt me, and see, pain hurts me. And I had the alternatives staring me back in the face. One of them was, go to Canada. I mean, you go to Canada, you don't have to fight in the war. Of course, you're no longer an American citizen. And I was too proud to go to Canada. I was too chicken to go to Vietnam. And being a proud chicken was in a dilemma because where does a proud chicken go, you know? Kentucky. I'm kidding. Kentucky's a great place. I just heard about a colonel that went there. Little short guy in a white suit. I heard when he died it took a year to cremate him. They couldn't decide if he should be crispy or original. No, that's sick, bro. I'm sorry. Where does a proud chicken go? I'll tell you where a proud chicken goes. I went down and joined the Navy because I said to myself, what? I said, nobody would float a battleship in a rice paddy. Now, you see my thinking? Now, come on, that makes a little bit of logical sense. You join the Navy, you don't go to Vietnam, you serve 4 years instead of 2 years because you joined instead of being drafted. Surely there's something to compensate there. So I went down and joined the Navy, and my second day in boot camp, they told me I was going to Vietnam. I got up that morning and had a bad year. Because really, it was like snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. Right when I thought I'd done the right thing, I realized I'd blown it. They sent me south of San Diego to a place called Coronado Island, and I was being trained for riverine warfare, where I would be sent on these little fiberglass boats up and down the rivers of South Vietnam. And I had to go down and run with a group called the SEAL Team. Now, I'd never heard of such people, but I'm going to tell you one thing. That's the meanest bunch of people I've ever been around in my life. Woo, those people eat rocks, man. They eat their young. They make Rambo look like a brownie. We ran 8 miles every day for 8 weeks, and I had never run 8 miles in the total accumulated running distance of my life. And if you've never seen a fat boy run 8 miles, I'm telling you, it is totally awesome. 15 minutes after we were through running, I was still jiggling all over. I couldn't get it all stopped at once. And then I lost so much weight, I had to tease the hair on my legs to keep my socks up. They came up to me and said, today we're going to teach you how to live without eating food. I said, I'll learn to do that in a high school cafeteria. Whoa. Long before they took prayer out of school, I was still praying over my food. Oh, God, heal it or kill it. Then additionally, they said, we're going to teach you how to use your hands and feet like weapons. Now, this was really funny because I was supposed to be able to walk up, kick a man in the face, splinter the bone in his nose, drive in his brain, and kill him. Now, I didn't hurt anybody, so don't get excited. But I did feel like Joe Cool. But then I never found Joe Fool, who was going to stand there and let me kick his nose into his brain. You know, they don't tell you the whole story. When you scream Kung Fu, he screams M16. I screamed, peace, brother. We practiced kicking at 7-foot targets. Man, I got to Vietnam, everybody over there is 4.5 feet tall. I hopped over, jumped back, I missed. I only hurt myself. A lot of training. They never once ever got around to telling me how to say goodbye to Brenda. Now, that may sound silly, but I'm going to tell you, I loved her. And all during school we dated, I knew that she was going to be my wife. In my heart, I just knew it. And I was committed to her. She's the only girl I ever dated. And I was wild about her, man. Just wild about her. Now I'm kissing her goodbye at the airport. She's my new bride, and I have a very good chance of being killed. The toughest thing emotionally I ever did was when I kissed her goodbye. I got on the plane and went to Vietnam. And people have said to me, how could you do it? I said, I puckered my lips. And I put my arms around. I know what they're saying, of course. They're saying, oh, wow, man, you know, like Vietnam, you know, it's such an unpopular war. How could you fight in such an unpopular war? That was stupid of me, wasn't it? Because popular war is so much more fun to fight, you know, where you can enjoy getting your face blown off. And if I had just waited a while, I could have really had fun getting burned. Popular war sounds like popular leprosy, you know. I mean, I don't see people lined up saying, oh, I want to kind of eat your face off, man. Can I please? I'm not into popular war. Because I'm going to tell you something, students. This mangled old body has a story to tell if I never open my mouth. you're looking at a lot of pain bundled up in one heavy-duty package. But let me make my point. It's certainly not for sympathy, because I don't want your sympathy. I don't need your pity. I just want your attention long enough to make you think today. I hate war. It rapes, it plunders, it disfigures, it dismembers, it destroys, and I hate it. But I think you also ought to know that I love freedom. Freedom is the most compelling force in my life. My freedom of speech, my freedom of press, my freedom of religion are the most important freedoms I possess, man. And I'm just telling you, I don't want to lose them. And when my country called me, I felt it was my obligation to do what I was asked to do. And I'm going to make this point very clear. Yes, I hate war. But yes, I love freedom. And I want you to know, as a Vietnam veteran, I'm proud of my scars and stripes. I'm proud I served my country. And I'm proud to be a free American today. Can you dig it? Yeah. So I kissed her goodbye at the airport, ended up in Vietnam right on schedule. Got the shock of my life. Well, it was like sticking my tongue in the light socket. Man, I couldn't believe it. I got there and found out my biggest problem was not the guys in the bushes shooting at me. My biggest problem was the guys in my barracks. Now, here's the reason. You see, I looked, but I couldn't seem to find very many of them not taking penicillin shots. Now, they didn't have a bad cold. You know what I mean? The medic came in my first Monday there and said, okay, everybody roll up your sleeves. I said, why? He said, time to get your shots. I said, I got my shots in San Diego. He said, you didn't get this one. I said, well, what's this one? He said, this is your VD shot. I said, get out of here with that needle. I said, man, I don't want VD. He said, stupid, this is to keep you from catching it. Oh, I said, then I really don't need it because I know a better way. He said, yeah, what's that? I said, keep your vows to your wife, boy. Ooh, can you imagine how that went over? I mean, I became instantaneously the enemy. Yes, sir, buddy. They turned on me like rabid dogs. They laughed at me, ridiculed me, lied to me, lied about me, and liable to me. They'd even say, what's the matter, you not a man? I said, what do you mean I'm not a man? I said, does taking a VD shot make you a man? Makes you sore. Let me make a point to you, students. That day I walked down that aisle and I made a promise to that little girl. My man, I intended to go to my grave before I broke that vow. It may not mean much to you today, but it means everything to me. That I'm fixing to start my 20th year of marriage with that same beautiful little girl. And I'm more in love with her today than I've ever been in my life. And just for the record, marriage does still work. And I want you to know this husband is in love with his wife. She's one more foxy mama, my man. Woo! Can you dig it? Ha! And they'd say things like, oh, come on, Roever. Everybody's doing it. I said, if everybody's doing it, why are you trying to get me to? Obviously, I'm not, and until I do, not everybody is, so back off, turkey lips. One guy said, you don't understand, man, we're in love. I said, you're not in love, you're in heat. You don't know the difference. We're in love. Hey, man, love can wait. Love can wait. You say, well, no, that's really none of your business. It is today. It's my business. It's my business when a little girl walks up to me in a school in Atlanta, Georgia, 2 weeks ago, tears running down her face. She said, oh, Mr. Roever, thanks for coming to my school, man. I said, sweetheart, I'm glad I came to your school. She said, thank you. You're the first reason I've had any hope. I said, girl, you're only 16. You got a life ahead of you. You've got hope. She said, oh, no, sir. I have AIDS, and I'm dying. And she said, you gave me hope that maybe I can die with dignity. She said, please tell other kids what you told our school. Tell them what you said. Virginity's not a dirty word. I'm going to tell you something, students. It may sound like a Victorian nerd standing here, but I don't give a rip what it sounds like. I honored that little girl I dated, And I respected her because I believe love demands respect, and you can't build a good relationship without respect. And we didn't build our relationship in the back seat of a car, man. We built it on the front seat of respect and trust and love. And I got news for you. We married because we wanted to. There weren't any abortions. There weren't any illegitimate children. I'm going to tell you what America really needs. You ready to hear this? America really needs one confirmed case of a pregnant teenage boy. Whoa! Hey, wait. No, hold it. I don't see any of you macho men clapping. That was a high octave range I heard of yells. It came from what I suspect to be the soprano voice of the women in the audience. Come on, son. I mean, if you're going to boast of your sexual exploits, surely you ought to be just as willing to accept responsibility for those exploits. Doesn't it sound good to have it? Oh, I still haven't convinced you guys. I'm going to tell you, it just doesn't appeal to you, does it? A little rugrat chasing you around screaming, Dad, Dad, with a dirty diaper. Woo! Come on, son, if I've made you mad, hang in there with me, because I'm trying to. I'm trying to make you mad enough to confront yourself and think. Guys, you're just as responsible for your behavior as she is, and I think you ought to be just as responsible for the consequences of that behavior. And I'm asking you to look before you leap, man. Don't go do something stupid because it feels good. There's more to life than feeling good now. You understand me, students? Please. Nobody's paying me to be here today. Do you understand that? I'm not being paid to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because somebody's got to get up in your face and love you enough to be honest, and I will gladly be that one. And I'm telling you, I love you enough to tell you premarital sexual activity unrestrained is going to hurt you. Number 2, cruising and boozing is stupid. It's stupid. The leading cause of death among teenagers is drinking and driving. When you people are going to realize you can't handle it any better than anybody else can. You are responsible for your behavior. I was in a school also in Atlanta, and the reason I speak of Atlanta is because I was just there with over 40,000 students in about 13 days. And a teacher walked up to me, 2 of them actually, 2 ladies, and handed me a note. And they said, please, would you go visit this young boy? I said, I'd be delighted to. I said, what class is he in? She said, oh no, sir, he's in the hospital. And they gave me the hospital name and room number, and I went to visit him. When I got there, the doctor said, no, you can't go in that room. He said, we're still trying to get his brains in his head. He said, Mr. Roever, someone ought to be telling these kids drinking and driving isn't worth it. I wish I'd got to that kid a little earlier. I wish I'd gotten to that girl in Atlanta just a little earlier. But then on the other hand, maybe I'm saying something to you just in time to make you think, students, don't go do something stupid because it feels good. Think about what you're doing. And in Vietnam, I had to think. I had to weigh the consequences of my behavior. Was it worth letting go of something more precious to me than money, that relationship with Brenda, because it would feel good? See, you have to understand there's more to life than doing what feels good. Because down the way, you make the right investment now, and you can win the greatest victories of your life later. You are, unfortunately, in America, as young Americans, forced into a mold that requires you make the most important decisions of your life when you are least prepared to do it. Without losing it entirely, turn and look at the person beside you right in the face for 1 full second, then look back at me. Go ahead. Now I'm going to ask you a serious question. Are you prepared to entrust the most important decisions of your life to the advice of the person you just looked in the face? Ha ha! Now, point made. But you see, you contradict your own humor. You contradict your own laughter, because you see, it is a proven fact in study after study. I've never seen a study contradict the study I'm going to tell you about right now. In all of these various studies, it is a proven fact that teenagers, before they listen to their parents, before they listen to their teachers or supervisors at the school or counselors, before they listen to the religious leaders of their community, before they listen to even socially accepted behavior that is governed by the law, they listen first to their peers who are no older on an average than they are, have experienced no more experiences in life than they have, and yet take the most important decisions of their life on the basis of their advice. It doesn't make sense to me, but you're doing it. I'm asking you to think. Use your head. Weigh it in your mind. Is it worth what you're about to do? Well, I stayed busy in Vietnam, and I got the shock of my life. The more I worked, the more I got promoted in rank. And the guys who were giving me the biggest trouble ended up giving me the biggest respect. And let me explain that little statement. There were 3 guys in my group that kind of had a nickname for me, each one. One of them called me Dudley Do-Right. The other one called me Dr. Do-Little. The other one called me Preacher Man. I called them Pervert number 1, Pervert number 2, and Pervert number 3. That's how we got along. Preacher Man and the Pervert. Sounds like a gospel rock and roll band. And whenever I was promoted in rank, the guys that called me Preacher Man or called me Dudley Do-Right had to call me Sir. Well, Sir Dudley Do-Right, actually. On the 26th of July, I picked up a white phosphorus hand grenade. I pulled the pin and I drew it back to throw it. It was a grenade that burns white hot. It'll burn underwater. You can't extinguish it till it burns itself out. I chose it to burn down high brush. In the event of any booby traps, it would have burned up tripwires and it would have put up smoke. We were right at the opening of many what we nicknamed spider holes. They were little bunkers that were in the ground on the bank of the river where the enemy could hide and shoot at us. It was our job to investigate them. You don't go walk up and ring a doorbell on a bunker and say, hey, anybody in there? Y'all come on out with your hands up. You know, they don't even do that in the movies. I picked the grenade up and drew it back to throw it, and it was right beside my head when suddenly it exploded. I was told 2 things later. One, that I'd been hit by a sniper's bullet, and the evidence leans that way. Another was it was a faulty grenade. The results are identical. Instantly, 40% of my skin was blown off of me. 60 pounds of my flesh went up in smoke. I went blind in my right eye. I went deaf in my right ear. I looked down, and my chest was gone. I knew I wasn't dead. I could see my heart was still beating. My back was on fire, and that was bad enough for the pain you'd think would probably have racked me. I felt nothing. I felt nothing. The thing that really bothered me is when I noticed my thumb was blown off. I can't hitchhike in England. Left hand, forget it. My right hand was severed in half. I was pumping blood out of an open artery, and with every beat of my heart, I knew I was going to die. I just knew it. Then I noticed half my face laying right in front of me. I went blind in my right eye and deaf in my right ear, so this is all a hairpiece and a plastic ear. It comes off. I won't, but it does. A girl asked me once, she said, how do you play the piano? I said, by ear. I took it and I played, Mary had a little. Isn't that gross? I love to be gross. Some of you are saying, oh, wow, that poor dude. All that and brain damage, too. Contrary to popular opinion, there was no Dane Bramage. Well, I jumped in the water. I continued to burn in the water. My skin was floating all around me. I was beside myself. I needed to pull myself together. When I crawled out of the water, I was on the bank of the river on my knees, and again I was surveying the damage. And I kept thinking to myself, I gotta die. I have to die. I'm gonna die. You know, you'd think, well, at that time, your whole life passes in review. I'd have to live my whole life again for that to happen. So only the most important things of my life came to my mind. You know what it was? Don't worry, it's not even a religious experience. You know what happened? I knew that in my mind, now you have to remember, at that point, I was convinced I was dead meat. I knew that I had lived my life and kept my vows to Brenda, and I was content to die knowing that I had not failed Brenda. I want to tell you something, students. The most important thing I think I might say to you today is this. Be very careful of your decisions, because the decisions you are now finding so easy to live with, one day you have to die with. And if you're not willing to die with the same decisions you're living with, you've made the wrong decisions, and you better change them fast, because this is the only shot you get. I don't care what Shirley MacLaine says. You only go around once, and this is it. You better make it count. And kids, I beg you, think it over before you go make a snap decision because some peer said, everybody's doing it. Someone offers you drugs, tell him to stick in his ears. Probably high enough he will. It's fun to watch him. You know, I really get a kick out of watching him. I'm just saying, you only get a shot at it, and if you blow it, you may never get another opportunity to correct your mistakes. Nobody understands that better than this school right now. Last week was not easy on this school. And everybody in this room, 1,300 kids right now, knows how very fragile life can be. Students, if getting on my knees and begging would help, I would do it. Be very careful with your life. Make the right decision the first time, and you will not live to regret it. I promise. So, on the bank of the river, I thought I was going to die, and I laid down so I could die. And when I laid down, all my buddies thought I was dead. I wasn't dead, though. I was tired. I've been swimming and burning, and that really makes you tired. A helicopter landed to pick me up, and they rolled me onto the stretcher. I was still glowing white hot. The stretcher caught on fire, fell right through the middle of it, out on my head. You ever have one of those days when nothing goes right? Well, I'm going to tell you, it was a miserable day. They rolled me up in wet blankets in the helicopter. I was breathing out of my nose, my mouth, my chest, my right ear. I was a holy man for once in my life. They got me in the helicopter, and the medic thought I was dead. I was rolled up in wet blankets on the stretcher, and he's filling out my death report when I said, "Medic!" And he almost jumped out of the flying helicopter, man. The pilot lost control of it. We were dropping like a rock, and I thought, oh, my Lord, we're going to crash, and I'll be the only survivor. Well, they got me to Saigon and then to Japan. And in Japan, I really did something stupid. I asked for a mirror, and they stupidly brought it. It was one of those round mirrors. They hold it, it's dished out, makes a pimple look like Mount St. Helens. I looked up in that mirror, and I saw half of a face being skull and the other half swollen to the width of my shoulder. I said, that's it. I hadn't died yet, but there's nothing to stop me from dying now because, frankly, kids, nobody in their right mind could have told me that day my wife would still love me. Nobody could have told me that day I'd stand in an assembly at Boswell High School and find the incredible respect and the love that I've seen here. And kids, I'm telling you, what I did was stupid, but if I have any defense at all, it's this. For the first and only time in my life, I was on drugs. I don't say what I'm going to say smart aleckly. I don't say it with a fat head. I don't say it thinking I'm better than anybody else, but just hear what I'm going to say. I have never smoked a joint of grass in my life. I have never snorted any coke. I've never put a dirty needle in my vein and pushed something into my bloodstream to make me feel good. Frankly, I never had to. I was man enough without it. And something about drugs I want you to know, especially you boys. Yeah. No amount of drug is going to turn a wimp into a man. If you become a man, son, you're going to have to earn it the old-fashioned way. You're going to have to work for it just the way the rest of us have. And you don't get it from drugs. You don't get it from booze. You get it from being faithful to your obligation. You keep your vows. You do what you know is right, even when they hassle you for it. So what? Don't stick in there. So, whenever the mirror was laying there and I realized that I was not going to be able to be myself again, the drugs they were pumping into me had gotten me so incredibly confused. I went into an unbelievable depression. I reached over, I grabbed the tube, and I pulled it out. I laid my head back, and I waited to die. Because I really figured that if I could kill myself, I could short-circuit the pain, I could stop the rejection, and my wife could find a handsome young man to be her husband. So when I pulled the tube and laid my head back and waited to die, I got hungry. I pulled the wrong tube, I grabbed lunch. And I'm glad, because if I'd pulled the right tube, I would have missed you. I would have missed the sweet love of my wife, and I would never have known the joy of being father of 2 kids. And even the doctors told me, they said, Davey, you'll never father children, your chemicals are shot. Well, they weren't dead because I got 2 kids, and they're mine, I can tell. They got plastic ears and everything. One of my kids, my number 1 son, is standing right over there running that television camera. That's my boy, and I love him. He's my buddy. I love you, Matt. Well, I'm glad I pulled the wrong tube. Suicide's not the answer. Just last month they had 6 suicides that were mentioned in the news big time. 4 of them from one little area in New Jersey. Do you know when they found their bodies, all 4 of them had autopsies? It's interesting. You blow your own brains out and then they open you up to see what killed you. You know what's sad? They found not just carbon monoxide in their blood, all 4 of them also had cocaine in their blood. When are you going to finally understand, teenagers? Go ahead, Mr. Macho Man. Go ahead there, big boy with 4 hair on your chest, been shaving 2 years and cut both legs. You're going to impress me, boy. You're going to really impress me. Well, I'm going to tell you something. The biggest pimple on the face of America are the drug pushers that are still trying to infest their garbage into young lives. And I'm going to tell you, kids, tell them more than no. Tell them again, stick it in your ear. You don't need their trash in your body. Do you hear me? Stay clean, students. Stay clean. Don't allow yourself to be pulled down that toilet of drug abuse when you can't get out. You're swallowed whole. Don't allow it to happen to your life. Well, I stayed very depressed for a while. Then the doctor came up and chewed me out good. He said, Mr. Roever, my name is not Roever, excusez-moi. My name is Reaver. You should never call a suicidal patient a dog. He said, Mr. Roever. I said, what, Dr. Fido? My nurse's name, honestly, was Nancy Bowser, B-O-W-S-E-R. Roever, Bowser, and Fido. We had a 3-dog night. Did you get it? Never mind. They told me I was going to live. They sent me to Texas, would you believe it? To Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. I was at Fort Sam at Brooke Army Medical Center for 1 year and 2 months. 13 of us were sent over. Of the group that was in the intensive care unit with me for the 90 days, I'm the only one that lived. And there was a man injured when I was, a very fine gentleman who was very seriously injured, but he healed incredibly quickly, and he even returned back to Vietnam and continued his service in the military in that war. But of the group that was in that hospital with me that was in the ICU, I'm the only one that lived. One man in that room had no skin on his body. He was in a helicopter crash, and every bit of it was burned off. His wife walked up. She looked at him, and she said, you're embarrassing. I couldn't walk down the street with you. And she took off her wedding ring, laid it between his feet, and walked out the door. Man, if you don't think it can happen to you, then ignore the old boy talking to you. Because I'm going to tell you, when you build your relationship in the backseat of a car, that's all you get. Because when the heat's on and the physical doesn't come through, the relationship is finished. I want to tell you something, boys. These young ladies have a lot more going for them than a good-looking pair of legs. And you better know that the person inside that little body is the most beautiful friend you may ever have in your life. Because when the legs have varicose veins, can you still love her? And I'm going to tell you, little lady, when that hairy chest falls into his drawers, can you still love him? You better have a lot more going for you than the physical. Go for the good things in life. The kind of relationship that's built on trust and respect. And it starts right now in this school. I even opened the door for her, man. I even opened the door for her when she was in school. My mother died not knowing what the car door button was for. She's scared to push it. Dad always did. I think she's afraid the car'd start and leave without her. I was a little kid. I used to watch Dad walk into the kitchen table at breakfast, and he'd brush Mom's hair to the side and kiss the back of her neck. Right in front of all the kids, he'd say, Lois, darling, I love you. We'd all snicker and giggle. Daddy's kissing Mama, Daddy. We loved it, man. We loved it because we knew when we came home, the locks weren't going to be changed. We knew when we came home, we were going to be loved. And I watched that all those years, and then not long ago, he slipped those big old coarse hands under her lifeless body in the bed and lifted her to his cheek one more time. And with a goodbye kiss, he said, Lois, darling, I love you. So when you're through with all your macho stuff and all your silly little games, for God's sake, man, come back to square one and realize good relationships begin with respect. A little self-respect is the starting point. When you respect yourself enough to do what's right, when nobody's there watching you, no teacher standing over you, you're doing what you do because you respect yourself enough to do it right. Can you dig it? Oh, it's the next woman in. The next woman in was my wife, 19 years old and definitely beautiful. She came swinging in. I knew I wasn't dead yet. She walked up to my bed. She read the chart, then she read the tag on my arm, and she made sure they matched, and then she was sure I was me. And she looked at me in my good eye, and she said, I just want you to know I really love you. Welcome home, Davey. And when she says Davey, I said, baby, I'm sorry, I can't look good for you anymore. She said, Davey, you never were good looking anyhow. Which is her way of saying I love you for who you are, not what you look like. I left that hospital. I had one eye, one ear, and one nostril, and that was it. The whole right side of my head was smooth skin. Smooth. I mean, no hair, no ear. It was smooth. I looked like a roll-on. Little kids would look at me and just scream and run into stuff. Especially when I go, rah! I can't help it. I can't. It's fun to watch little kids scream and run into stuff. It's better than drugs. I get high, the little kid has a bad trip. Did you get it? One guy staring at me drove his car right through the Dairy Queen. Right down here on Jacksboro Highway. I was sitting down there waiting on the light to change, and I couldn't even drive good because by the time I got this eye turned to see who's in that lane, I ran over everything in front of me. The way I changed lanes, I'd throw in the blinker, honk, and drift real slow. If I heard broken glass and screeching tires, I'd drift right back. I'm sitting there, and this man's making a left turn. This man's making a left turn right in front of me, and he looked over and saw me one-eyed sitting there, and he ran right through the Dairy Queen. Humans and hamburgers, whatever. I felt terrible laughing so hard. I was about to laugh what was left of my head off. The light changed colors 3 times. The guy behind me changed colors 4 times. He's honking and waving. I knew if I didn't leave, he was going to come hit me, so I took off. I looked up, man, I ran that stupid light. I hit my brakes, and he knocked my bumper off. Wham! Oh, I felt terrible. I caused 2 wrecks in more minutes. Than that, I got up, and I started to get out of the car, go back and apologize. Well, everybody at Dairy Queen saw me, and they thought I was drunk. Then they really saw me and thought they were drunk. And the guy behind me, I went back to apologize. He rolled up his window. He wouldn't let me talk to him. I thought, I'm going to tell him, Whiplash, look what you did to my face. I'm going to sue you, man. So that day, I made up my mind that I wasn't going to let anything rob me of the joy of life. I couldn't wish my scars away. And for all the wishing in the world, I'd still have them. So I decided I'd take the pieces of my life that were left and I'd give them away to other people. And that's why when I come to your school and I say I love you, I want you to know I'm not paid to be here. Nobody pays me to go to the schools of America. I've been with over 2 million students in the last 8 years, and they can't buy my love, because I always thought if you paid somebody to love you, they call that prostitution, and I ain't. I love you for who you are. You're you, and you're America, and I'm not ashamed of my country. I'm proud of you, kids. I know there's some of you going through trouble, and you try to put on the big show with your big act, but people see right through you, man. They know what you're all about. And they like you the way you really are, not the way you try to act like. So what I'm saying today is I got nothing to hide, man. What you see is what you get. They make me put on some makeup for television, and good grief, I feel like Boy George. But other than that, what I am, and that's what I am. And one day I was on a radio call-in talk show in Michigan. The guy called up and he said, "Are you Dave Roever?" I said, "Yeah." "You the guy that was in Vietnam?" I said, "Yeah." "Were you in River Division 573 stationed on Mobile Base 2 in the Mekong Delta with SEAL Team 1? I said, "Yes, yes, yes, and yes." He asked 4 questions. I'm glad it wasn't 5. He said, "Was your bunk underneath a guy named Mickey Block and he called you preacher man?" I said, "Pervert number 1. Blew me away, guys, because I thought he was dead. For 13 years, I thought the man was dead. 19 bullets went through his body. He was blown to pieces, and this guy is talking to me on the phone. I said, "Man, I can't believe you're not dead." I said, "I'm so glad you're not dead." He said, "Well, I heard you lost your head, man. I thought you were dead." He said, "I'm glad you're not dead." And I thought, boy, we sound like the Grateful Dead. He said, I went over there and I lost my leg, and I came home, I've lost my job, I'm losing my wife and kids, drugs and booze are killing me. He said, I put a gun in my head and lost my, and he said, I just want to know, can we talk? I said, can we talk? I said, you meet me tonight at 7:30, and we set up an appointment. Over a cup of coffee that evening, pervert number one and preacher man relived a few memories. And something beautiful happened in his life. Because today, pervert number one is one of the dearest friends I have. He works with me out of my office. And I just thought I'd shock the socks off of you, because I brought him with me today, and I want him to come out here. Mickey Block, would you join me? Would you welcome Mickey Block? God bless you, baby. Thank you, man. All right. I want to ask Mickey just to give you 1 or 2, 3 minutes here of his heart and let you know what a great guy came back from that war. I want to tell you something. You're looking at two men who are proud they served their country. Mickey, give them a word of greeting.
We know that there's a lot of people out there today that they just don't think people love them. They think no one out there cares about me. And if there's anything that, along with Dave, that I would like to present to you is that please don't leave this high school auditorium believing that no one loves me. Because we love you. That's why we're here. And you've got two guys that think you're really, really special. And I think Dave Roever is really special. Thank you, partner.
God bless you, Mickey. Thank you, partner. Mickey Block. Well done, Mick. Thanks, pal. To conclude, I'm going to play you a little song at the piano. I'm not a great piano player, so please don't leave. It always embarrasses me when I stand and I bow and everybody's gone. I didn't play before I was injured. I did have 2 lessons when I was 9 years old, but my teacher quit. So what I'm going to play has never been tutored. It took me 1 year to reach an octave with no thumb. It took another year to figure out what an octave was. I use my index finger because it works, and these fingers don't work, so I have to use the back of my knuckles, and I use the side of my hands, and that's where I get my power stroke, because my philosophy is if you can't play good, play loud. I learned that from rock and roll. Just no. The song was written by a man in England to his son who never came home from World War II. It then became one of the most popular songs in America, and they called it Oh Danny Boy. And then Mr. Andre Crouch sang the same exact tune to a beautiful gospel song called He Looked Beyond My Faults and Saw My Needs. So you may know the tune by a variety of histories or titles, but either way, I hope you enjoy my rendition of this great old song. And just remember, young people, what Mickey said, that when you can forgive those who've hurt you, some of you, I'm not stupid, man, I know some of you in this room have been hurt by other people. Just remember, you don't get anywhere in life with bitterness and hatred and anger. You learn to forgive and you learn to forget, and you get on with your life without bitterness. I hope you've enjoyed the assembly today. I couldn't have been in a better school than Boswell High School in Fort Worth, Texas. I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
Now, a preview of other powerful videos from Dave Roever.
I hate war. I hate the pain. I don't like disfigurement. I hate war. Rapes, it plunders, it disfigures, it dismembers, and it destroys. But I also want you to know, I love freedom.
Tragedy to triumph. From the horror of fighting in the jungles of Vietnam to the agony of living with the lasting scars of that war, Dave Roever has seen God work despite the bitterness of life.
The fragments seem to indicate I'd taken a sniper's round through my right fist, and the hole in the back of my hand would be explained by it. The only thing is, and what really matters, is when the grenade exploded, 40% of my skin came off of my body. I'm a Vietnam veteran, but I'm proud of my scars and stripes, and I'm proud to be an American.
Taped in a number of locations across the country, Tragedy to Triumph is Dave's own inspiring story and a rousing welcome home to Vietnam veterans.
God bless America.
Don't miss this unforgettable video presentation, Tragedy to Triumph.
Wave 3, building on a proud tradition.
Good morning, I'm Don Schroeder, Wave 3 News. A tragic story to pass on to you this morning. We'll explain it the best we can at this early hour. A church bus from the First Assembly of God Church in Radcliffe, Kentucky was struck head-on during the nighttime hours last night by a pickup truck. The truck was going north in the southbound lanes when it hit the bus head-on, and we're told the bus exploded.
As we pulled up, we stopped a pretty good distance away, and we came running up, and as we came running up, you could see the kids jumping out of the rear end of the bus while it was on fire.
It's one of the worst bus crashes in U.S. history. 27 people have died. And now, one man is charged with killing all of them. The driver of the truck that hit the bus, Larry Mahoney. State police say at the time of the crash, Mahoney's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit.
It kills over 25,000 a year on our highways. Through startling accounts and interviews, One More for the Road gives you the tragic facts on drunk driving and shows what you can do to prevent it.
You never dream it'll happen to you. You never dream it'll happen to somebody you know. But when you take that drink and you step behind the wheel, you're asking for it.
One More for the Road. It may be the only warning someone you love will ever hear.
What are little girls made of? Sugar and spice and everything.
The abortionist is moving it on the back wall of the uterus, attempting to suction the child out. The child keeps moving violently away from it.
What are little boys made of? Snakes and snails
And the suction is acting like a giant leech, pulling the child back and forth as it attaches itself to the back skin of the child.
I told the doctor, I said, I've changed my mind. You know, I'm not going to finish the procedure. And he said, ma'am, you've already started a procedure that can't be stopped.
You know, I made an appointment, I canceled it. I made another appointment and I drove down there and I turned back around. And I just realized I can't do this.
Compelling and clear. What Was I Supposed to Be takes a meaningful stand against abortion and celebrates the alternative of life. With a haunting title song by Ray Boltz, plus a number of interviews and features, What Was I Supposed to Be is a video you won't forget.
Why did I taste your death before I even drew a breath? Laid my head in my mother's breast to sleep. Oh, Jesus. What was I supposed to be?
You've now had a glimpse of Dave's growing video outreach. The videos you've just seen, plus many other exciting tapes and books, are available by calling toll-free 1-800-87-DAVEY or by writing P.O. Box 136-100, Fort Worth 76136. You'll want to read his gripping life story, Welcome Home, Davey, and see some of his powerful TV programs now available, such as the popular Garbage In, Garbage Out on the decline of morality, and A Precious Loss, which shows what's happened in the lives of the people of Radcliffe, Kentucky 1 year after the tragedy. For a free catalog and free subscription to our full-color magazine, call or write today.